Hey everyone. So, if you've been watching the news recently, you have seen that there has been a wave of protests popping up all over the country, and these protests are in response to the various stay at home orders and essentially the closure of the American economy that has happened as a result of coronavirus. And so, what I wanted to do is play a clip of you guys of the protests and then kind of talk about where I feel like Democrats are really failing in the messaging on how we should be combating coronavirus and what I think the response to these protests should be from the left. And so let's take a look at this clip and then I'll come and talk about it.
USA! 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 Hey! You can't close America! You can't close America! America will reopen! Texas is leading the way! All up in Texas now! All up in Texas now! All up in Texas now! Let us work! Let us work! Let us work! Let us work! No more tyranny! No more tyranny! No more tyranny! Blocking traffic.
All right. So let me just start off by saying, obviously, I don't think that people should be protesting right now. I think that you should be listening to health professionals and staying home as much as possible. I don't think it's smart to go into areas with large groups of people. And then let me also just say, I would definitely like to acknowledge that there are tons of terrible messages that are being advocated for at these protests. There's some people arguing for some pretty abhorrent things. That I think that goes without saying. But when I see these protests, the first thing that pops into my mind is so the former president of Brazil, Lula, he has this quote where when people are afraid, they elect monsters to protect them. And I think that like if that doesn't like perfectly describe the Trump presidency, I don't know what does. Just because I feel like what has created Trump has been these people at the bottom who feel like no one is fighting for them. They feel this economic anxiety. They've been left behind on a variety of things. And, they feel like, obviously, there is some, aspects of xenophobia mixed in with their people feeling like immigrants are stealing their jobs. Obviously, I don't think that that's the case. But there are people that feel like they have been left behind economically. And they see Trump and they think that he is fighting for them. They think that Trump is fighting for the everyman. And I think that, if you dig really deep into like what Trump has actually done and what he advocates for, I think that obviously that's not the case, but he is appearing that he is fighting for the people. That is the persona that he's trying to give off. And it's really dangerous when the left starts to lose the persona that they are the ones fighting for the people. And so like you have seen like so many people like talking about these protests, particularly, people calling them stupid, calling them dangerous, all these different things, mocking the people at the protests. And I feel like this is a problem because they are missing out on where these protests are coming from. So many people on the left lack empathy. They lack the ability to put, obviously people on the right also lack empathy in many situations, but when it comes to people who disagree with them, many people on the left, particularly the woke left, feel like they lack the empathy of understanding where people on the other side are coming from. And I think that that's really, really dangerous because even if you disagree with these protests, you have to understand why they're protesting. There's so many people who have lost their job and like they might recognize that, coronavirus is, really damaging and people are dying, but they feel like they can't like provide for their family and they feel like they're, that their lives are falling apart. They've been fired and they feel so left behind. And the only person right now talking about reopening the economy is Donald Trump. And that's not how it should be. Democrats should also be talking about how to reopen the economy. They can't let Donald Trump steal that he is the one that wants to reopen the economy. Now, Democrats can say that they don't want to open it right now, but they can't let Donald Trump be the only voice in the room when it comes to when to reopen the economy. Because as the shutdown, as the lockdown goes on, that messaging of, oh, we need to reopen the economy becomes more and more appealing to more and more people. More and more people are going to sympathize with the, hey, yeah, this is getting kind of out of hand. And like I said, I think you should listen to health professionals. I don't think that now is the time to reopen the economy, at least not to full capacity. But what I do think that we need to recognize is that if Democrats have no messaging whatsoever around reopening the economy, they are going to lose that battle long term. Because I already can tell that really, really, really late in the game, I'm talking months from now, 8 months from now, 10 months from now, if Democrats are still not talking about when the economy will reopen, not even just that it needs to be open then, but just if they're not even giving ideas of when the economy needs to be reopened, they're going to lose that fight, because there is a certain point where enough people will be like, this is ridiculous. Donald Trump is the only one talking about reopening the economy, and they will go behind him. And I don't think that they should go behind Donald Trump, but we can't let people, particularly people at the bottom, feel like Donald Trump is the only one fighting for them. We need to let people understand that the left is also fighting for them. So you've seen people mocking kind of the protesters, and what I haven't been seeing is, because of this lack of empathy for where the protests are coming from, you don't have this response from Democrats of oh, this is what we should be doing. Where because if people felt like they were being taken care of during this shutdown, there would be a lot less protesters. Sure, there'd probably be some, but if we had anywhere near the kind of welfare programs that we should be having in response to these shutdowns, we would not be seeing these levels of protests. We just wouldn't. If we had because in Canada, they're giving people, I think it's $2,000 a month for the duration of the shutdown. Places in Scandinavia, the government is funding different companies. They're funding them to the extent where they'll be able to give the payroll, where they'll be able to pay their employees so that they won't have to lay anybody off. The U.S. just isn't doing that. One $1,200 payment is not going to cut it. That's just not going to cut it. People, they're not going to be able to make it on that. And then, obviously unemployment benefits have been expanded, but there's no infrastructure to actually make sure that these people are getting the unemployment benefits. And so there's a lot of people, there's a huge backlog. The system just wasn't prepared to deal with these levels of unemployment. And so Democrats need to be fighting for more relief for the people at the bottom. But right now, the rhetoric is all just, we need to stay closed forever. This is bad. There are people who are saying that things will never go back to normal. They'll say, we're never going to be able to shake hands again. We're never going to be able to have concerts again. We're never going to be in crowded groups of people again. Don't say never. Don't say never. One, it's just not true. The idea that 10 years from now, people won't shake hands again, that's ridiculous. That's obviously ridiculous. I think people will shake hands a lot sooner than that. But never is such an extreme understanding of what's happening right now, and it's just not true. But there's so many people saying that, and it's not a winning messaging. And a lot of the people who are like, oh, these protesters are so stupid, they should just suck it up and just stay home even though they lost their job. Like I said, I don't think they should be protesting, but just being idiots is not the answer. Because it comes from a point, I don't really like when people say it, but it comes from a point of privilege where you're like, oh, I'm doing okay, these guys should stay at home, you might get someone sick. I'm yes, I do think you should avoid getting people sick, but you need to recognize that there are people who don't have the financial means to withstand this lockdown. And so yes, I do think the protests are kind of productive in the sense that more people could potentially be infected, and that would potentially make the lockdown last longer. But I do think that the left needs to recognize why these protests are happening and have an effective message for how to reopen the economy and how to deal with all this economic anxiety that's happening. Because it can't be that because then, on the flip side of things, you have Nancy Pelosi going on James Corden and showing everyone her $12,000 fridge and her gourmet ice cream, and she's doing good, and she loves chocolate, isn't she relatable? If you just lost your job and you tune in to James Corden and you see how good Nancy Pelosi's doing and how she's like, oh yeah, we're going to stay shut down for a long time, you're not going to be a fan of Nancy Pelosi after that. You might not be a fan of Nancy Pelosi for a variety of other reasons before that, but Democrats need to be more relatable and feel like they are working for the people. And just right now, I haven't seen that happening. I really haven't seen it. And you're seeing the Republicans just kind of steal all the ground on reopening the economy and fighting for the people. And that's so dangerous. Like, it is important that we are, like, getting the message out there that what health professionals are saying. But we also do need to recognize the people that are left behind due to such a prolonged economic shutdown. And so anyway, if you guys disagreed with anything I said in this video, please leave a comment down below. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and have a great day.